So Summon Sorceress was just unbanned and errata'd in the OCG. This means it's probably also gonna happen in the TCG pretty soon. Now back in the day, Summon Sorceress was game breaking. This thing was abused in so many decks, FTK style, danger, bullshit, dark piles and so forth. This card was just nuts. And so of course it got banned for pretty good reason, but now it's back. Now the effect has changed. Back in the day you would give your opponent a monster, then you would summon one with the same type, and that was it. And you just abused it from there. They now changed it to where you are locked into that type for the rest of the turn. Now this is very important because previously in the first Google translation, it basically said like, oh, you're locked for the whole turn, which made me think, oh, it's just spellcasters. But that's not the case. It is actually from that point onwards, which makes the card way more interesting. So given this fact, this major change that you're basically type locked from the point that Summon Sorceress resolves onwards, we now have those creative juices flowing. I have a few ideas of decks that might actually be able to abuse Summon Sorceress now, which is very exciting because it means we can get cooking. Now, if you have any Summon Sorceress ideas, put them in the comments down below and let's see what we can come up with. So first, let's talk about the problems that we have to solve when building with Summon Sorceress. The first is, of course, we are locked into one type. Not just from, our deck, but also from our extra deck. This means that we can't go like, oh, Summon Sorceress, get a body, and then Summon Sorceress plus that body makes Appaloosa, and then we start playing with our cards. Because Appaloosa is fairy, the only deck that can turn a Summon Sorceress into an Appaloosa has to be a pure fairy deck. Now, if you have fairy ideas, cool. But otherwise, you'll have to start thinking, okay, which decks have access to solid boss monsters in the extra deck in the same type, or at least is fine with keeping a Summon Sorceress on the board. The other issue is, of course, that you need to have a monster with that type in your hand already. You need to have a deck that plays enough monsters so that you have that excess beast in your hand essentially, or you need to know a combo that already puts that body in your hand inherently. So this means probably it's not going to be a deck with a bunch of spells and traps as extenders. You're going to have a solid amount of bodies. I seem to recall that back then Summon Sorceress was also used in Sekka's Light type of decks, so you were only running monsters, which makes it way more easy. That's another constriction we kind of have to think about. Now, when we're going to build with Summon Sorceress, there are some opportunities as well, of course. First of all, this card essentially reads, put any monster in the game into your graveyard. Assuming you can find some extra deck monster, you can just go Summon Sorceress, summon a thing, link them off, boom, you have it in your grave. So if you already have some type of deck that maybe can use specific monsters in the grave, that's already helping you a ton. And the second opportunity, and this might be the most heinous one, giving your opponent a monster can be problematic. Now, luckily, this Summon Sorceress does negate the monster that you give them, so you can't do weird locks or something like that. But there's still going to be opportunity for weird FTKs in my mind. So let's also keep that in mind. So with all those ideas in our head, let's talk about some of the decks I have been thinking about to play Summon Sorceress in right now. Again, no concrete list, just ideas. First of all, dragons. I think it would come to no surprise. Dragons are already used to playing monotype. If you look at a Dragon Link deck, it's just a bunch of dragons, couple hand traps, and a few spells. And a lot of these dragons are also semi-bricky. Like, you're always gonna have like some type of bodies in your hand where you're just like, they're not the easiest to summon. I could maybe get them out somehow, but you're gonna have some excess. So it's technically gonna be possible to make the Summon Sword, give a random dragon body to your opponent and go from there. It can be a way to get Absa Router access. And of course, not a lot of stuff in Dragon Link actually locks you into dragons. Also, Summon Sorceress is a dark, so if you're dark locked, that's still fine. Of course, there's also a bunch of other older really good dragon cards that Dragon Link might not be playing right now because it doesn't have clean access to them. Of course, technically Dragon Ravine is usually pretty good. But the thing is, previously people could go like Imperm or Valor on your Romulus. Now you don't have Ravine access. Now you don't have a way to put a certain dragon into grave. Summon Sorceress might just be the card that then pushes through that and gets you there. So again, I think Dragon Link, there's something there. I'm sure there are people who are way better at dragons than me who can actually cook up like a really good dragon list featuring Summon Sorceress. Number 2, Volcanics. Now, I have Volcanics, they're like the most fun fire deck, if you're keeping it fun, if you're not FTKing your opponent out of the universe. Volcanics are pretty fun right now, especially because they can run the broken fire support. The thing is though, Volcanics have so many pyros, have so many free just Pyro extension, and then usually not much to do with it. And then more importantly, if you want to FTK with Volcanics, you can sometimes run into the issue where you cannot put a body onto your opponent's board because your little token maker got imperm, and that then stops you from FTKing. But now with Summon Sorceress, it might be pretty easy to give your opponent a body, and then also extend with it from there, maybe even get access to some of the important Volcanic cards in your graveyard, like Shell or the other one, is it Rimfire? I don't know, again, I haven't tested it, but there's maybe something there with Volcanics featuring Summon Sorceress. I know some Volcanic players out there can probably cook this way better than me, but it's an option. The reason I'm also thinking about this archetype specifically is because if you want to currently break the game with fire, let's say, fire is first of all already breaking the game, but secondly, a lot of their end boss monsters aren't actually pyro. So when you are playing like Snake Eye Ash, Oak, Poplar, all this Snake Eye stuff, while you start with pyros, you end with non-pyros. So Summon Sorceress isn't actually gonna really mesh there quite as well. Whereas Volcanics, even if you start with Snake Eyes cards, you start with Snake Eyes cards, which means you start with pyros, but all your end board stuff is also pyro. So this is one of the fire decks where you might actually, you know, be able to properly abuse Summon Sorceress. Number 3, and this is definitely more of a rogue pick, but it's one of my favorite decks, Zombies. Now Zombies have sucked ass for so long, but back in 2018-19, I would follow along, I would look at these cards, I loved them, like Unizombie, Mizuki, Necroworld Banshee, Doomer King Ballardrog. All of these just zombie cards are so fucking cool to me, and Summon Sorceress was actually a decent card for them. You know, you're already monotype anyway, you play a bunch of monsters, especially ones that you want to have in graveyard, so Summon Sorceress can help you with that. They also have very, very decent link monsters to consider, like Vampire Sucker and so forth, and being able to get certain zombies into graveyard when you get stuck, you might have like plenty of bodies but no way to extend. Maybe you want to get like Glow Up into your grave, maybe you want to get like Ballardrog into your grave, maybe you want to have Necroworld Banshee into your grave, Mizuki. All of these cards, there's might be something there. Now of course Zombie does have the issue that you can't really fit that much non-engine because you need to have that critical mass of both stuff that mills and stuff that's good when milled. It's kind of like the Tearlament issue right now. That's maybe something fun to try, though I think it's probably still just gonna be hella rogue, but it's definitely fun. It's something I want to cook with. Number 4, we have Phantom Knights. Now the reason I think of Phantom Knights is first of all of this shit is warrior, so you're plenty happy with that, but also because back in the day when Summon Sorc was abused, they were already doing like Phantom Knights cards, Rusty Bardiche and so forth. You would have all these dark piles also with dangers. You would already use these as some type of graveyard payoff, let's say, and so Summon Sorceress kind of neatly goes into that. And then more importantly, when Summon Sorceress locks you into warriors, you can actually just link off the Summon Sorceress into Rusty Bardiche, because Rusty Bardiche just requires darks, and Bardiche is also a warrior already. Interestingly also, is that maybe you can just pop the stuff that you put onto your opponent's field with the Bardiche, if you put like a 3 into one of his arrows, and then maybe the thing you pop goes to your graveyard and also gives you value. Maybe you gave them a boot, which then gives you maybe an extra Fog Blade or something like that. And again, the thing that you summoned from the Summon Sorc while it's negated on field might also be something useful in grave again. So again, some more things to think about. There's definitely a world, in my mind at least, that there's some kind of Phantom Knight abuse you can do with Summon Sorc. Though of course, keep in mind, once you get locked, you cannot put up the Appaloosa, so Phantom Knight's weakness to Nibiru might still be an issue. So maybe if you play the Brave engine, you need to set up the Griffin before and then keep on playing so that you lock yourself afterward. Again, a lot of things to consider. Maybe I'm coping. I know the Zombie and the Phantom Knight thing, there might be some cope in there, but I do really love those decks, and so I'm down to try that out. Now number 5, and this might be the most interesting one to me, and that is Yubel, or Yubel featuring any type of Fiend stuff. Fiend good stuff is really looking like a deck to me in the near future. Now I'm well aware, Yubel right now, I'm sorry, I made a tier list and I didn't mention Yubel, and people were like, where's Yubel? Where's Yubel? Where's Yubel? I'm gonna say it in the most respectful way possible. Right now, Yubel sucks balls. Yubel doesn't put up anything, but that will change. This deck is gonna get wave and wave and wave of support that is just mind-blowing. In Legacy of Destruction, this deck is getting crazy cards. Hopefully in Terminal Revenge, it gets Phantom of Yubel. Again, praying, we don't know that yet, but that card is also game-shattering. And then in the Infinite Forbidden, we are getting Fiendsmith, which is also crazy Fiend support. And then maybe we also get the Underworld Goddess type Link 2 promo, which links the Fiend cards and Yubel into the Fiendsmith archetype. And so there are just a billion fucking waves coming for Yubel that are absolutely insane. And so when you are getting a deck that can link a billion fiends into so much payoff, you know, so many good Yubel cards, so many good Unchained cards. All of this is synergizing so well. And now you're getting a card that can basically say any two monsters of the same type, your whole deck is fiends anyway, now gets you any fiend in the game out of your deck. And then that any fiend, you know, gets your whole combo started. That is wild. That is like the biggest issue that deck still had. If you had to start with like a Dark Beckoning Beast, you had no clean Yubel access, you were kind of crying. But now Dark Beckoning Beast gets Spirit Gate, Spirit Gate gets you the other Dark Beckoning Beast, normal summon makes Summon Sword gets you Yubel. Get rid of them. Now you can use the Spirit Gates to get the Yubel stuff back, and you're just off to the races. Or like Spirit of Yubel, whichever one you want to grab. So Summon Sword inside any Fiend pile, doesn't matter if your Yubel package is huge or smaller, or maybe it's a huge Unchained package or smaller, or maybe Fiendsmith, big package or smaller, it doesn't matter. All of this Fiend shit all works together, and Summon Sorceress fixes its last issue. Maybe I'm in some weird conspiracy territory here, but I think that is gonna go super fucking crazy. This is gonna be like Dragon Link, but for Fiend, without all of the ban list hits that Dragon Link has had. So yeah, that's another thing to consider. I think Summon Sorceress is going to be really good in that type of deck. There's so many more ideas people might have. I was thinking of Infernoble, and I was thinking, oh, maybe something with Cybers, but I thought a bunch of these Cybers cards already lock you. Maybe that's not really it, but maybe you have ideas. So let me know those ideas in the comments down below. Be sure to subscribe to this channel. I want to reach 100k subs one day. Right now, we're on track to reach that in 10.5 years. I would like for that to be a bit faster, so subscribe. And I will see you soon. Ciao.